My name is Craig Anderson. I'm a local land service officer in the Western Division of New South Wales, and my job here is to help manage a project on the Ramsar site of the Caryapundy Swamp. Whether it's silting from the inflows of water or damage done with feral animals. So as part of our project to improve the conditions of the swamp, we are using some of our funds to control pest animals in the private properties that surround the parks, and we are doing earthworks to reduce the erosion and therefore reducing the silt feeding into these creeks.
The Caryapundy Ramsar Site is wholly contained within Caryapundy Swamp National Park, but it incorporates large areas outside of the national park that have a direct influence on the wetlands within the national park. To actually drive good conservation outcomes, you need to be thinking bigger than just the national parks. We need to be able to work with our neighbours and our colleagues in the broader landscape to be able to drive those landscape scale benefits.
My name is Gresley Wakelin-King. I'm a geomorphologist, and that means that I'm somebody who studies the landscape and how it works and the processes of it, and I specialise particularly in Australian desert rivers and Australian rangelands landscapes. And the first thing that we found out is that the flow paths that water is coming in to the Ramsar areas is not the flow paths that I was expecting. So I sort of thought that water might come from the Baloo River in Queensland and then come down through Caryapundy Swamp and then go into the Baloo overflow. But looking at the topography and looking at the satellite imagery, it's clear that a really important amount of water is coming down not via Caryapundy Swamp but actually via the swamps on the northeastern side. So one of the first results was that the flow paths that need to be protected aren't necessarily within the National Parks area as it existed at the beginning of the project.
So one of the ways that we engage with the pastoral enterprise that surround the National Park is working with the local land services who have those connections with those people and the capacity to be able to deal with some of the environmental challenges that we're dealing with in far western New South Wales. And working with the LLS is something that allows us to be able to engage with that broader landscape.
There's so much history that is expressed in the landforms and the landscapes of the whole lower Baloo catchment area. And a lot of these landforms record, I guess, previous versions of the river or previous versions of the swamp, or in the sandy country in the east, there are lots of smaller lakes and smaller swamps. And if you look really closely at the detail of them, some of them have got might be beach ridges, might be lunettes along the side, but basically there are lots of places in the landscapes where people have certainly lived and which may represent important historical or ceremonial areas.
In pre-colonised history, obviously the water systems were slightly different, and there's a vast array of cultural heritage sites. As part of local land services, we have been given this project to work with parks and with local landholders and with the Aboriginal community to improve the integrity of the swamp itself.
The objective is to really get out there with the traditional owners. So we've got sharing of knowledge between all the different people that are involved. National Parks telling our story, the local land services being able to contribute knowledge as well in those conversations, and also the traditional knowledge that comes from the Aboriginal people, in this case Malinyapa people. So we're telling the story from different perspectives, and that also allows us to listen.
The day was absolutely brilliant because we've got the insight of all the works that are going to take place and what's the goal and the plans to regenerate all this area, and working with a good bunch of people and bring it all together, and everyone come together was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, absolutely fabulous. I never expected to see the water coming into the Caryapundy Swamp. Very emotional about it, and as I am now, considering my age, I probably won't see water flow in there again in my lifetime, and it was just, words just can't describe it.
And that's one of the really powerful things of people coming back to country is that ability to be able to see these events that are transformative events. It's a very rare occurrence, and to see something as frankly as epic as that type of event that ecologically speaking just absolutely drives that system and allows it to become the Ramsar site that it is in terms of its contribution to waterbird breeding and to that whole trophic food web that occurs in these wetlands when you have these major events. So it's a truly remarkable time.